everyone. It's Alicia, and welcome back to the Eating Podcast. This month is MS Awareness Month, meaning Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. And I shared some information about this previously, but I definitely would be remiss to not talk more about multiple sclerosis and how it has affected so many people's lives. Listeners that are listeners of this podcast, myself, because I was diagnosed with MS. I was diagnosed with MS in 2010. And if you listen to the episode last week and even the car confessions last week, I spoke about multiple sclerosis and how it affects my life. That was the car confessions that I spoke about. But then let me make sure I'm saying that right, because I think it was it was 2 episodes ago. The idea of, was it 2 episodes, y'all? Let me see before I keep talking. This is hilarious. Let's see here, because I know I spoke about it. Yes. March 10th. There it is, y'all. March 10th. The title of that actual episode was, Did You Know More Black Women Are Being Diagnosed with Multiple Sclerosis? And so I shared just some information that I found, different articles. I think it was 1 or 2 articles that I shared some information about that as it relates to Black women being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I think it's important to raise awareness around the fact that there are so many Black and brown people being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And it's a thing where a lot of times this diagnosis takes a long time to, come about. A lot of times people are misdiagnosed because if you remember from the episode where I talked about the Black women, some people are kind of like pushed off and thinking they have something that's considered like a Black disease. So something that would be like diabetes, heart issues, lupus, things that you traditionally see in the Black community, but then finding out a lot of times well after the fact, where they could have received, better care, that they in fact had multiple sclerosis. So I definitely want to continue to raise awareness around the Black and brown experience of those who have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and what you need to do to ensure that if you are having certain signs and symptoms, that you get it checked out sooner than later. I wanted to share what what I found from the MS, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. And I'll share this information in the show notes. So they have a section on their site, and it's called How MS Affects the Black Community. And when I came across this, I was like, oh, interesting, because I don't ever remember seeing this on their site. But listen, they have so many things. The MS Society has a ton of resources. So of course, sometimes you just miss things, but I'm glad I came across this. And like I said, it says how MS affects the Black community. So it says multiple sclerosis in the Black community. So experts used to believe that multiple sclerosis mostly affected white people, particularly those of European descent. However, research indicates that more Black people live with MS than previously thought. Research also shows that MS may affect Black people differently than it does white people. If you are a member of this community, you may face more aggressive progression and greater disability. Specifically, if you may have more balanced coordination and walking problems, more cognitive and visual symptoms, more frequent relapses with poor recovery. And the last thing that they put on here in the bullet points was earlier disability onset. Scientists don't know, the reasons for these differences yet. But disparities in healthcare, diagnoses, treatment, and access could be partially to blame. And I think a lot of it is to blame on those things. But, I digress. But I wanted to go back because in the bullet points, they shared that more frequent relapses with poor recovery. And it's funny because I actually have a page. If you want to follow me on TikTok, follow me on TikTok. You can find me at Dr. Alicia Christian on TikTok, as well as I have another page where I'm just being myself, which is Leash. You can look me up as Alicia. You can look up Alicia Christian. I'm pretty sure both of them will pop up. But someone asked me the other day on a live, I was on TikTok live. They were asking me about relapses. Like, what is an actual relapse? And I'm glad that the MS Society provided a hyperlink on that actual page to explain what a relapse is. So this is what the MS Society says. and shares about relapses. So, a multiple sclerosis relapse, also known as an exacerbation or like attack or flare up, this is an occurrence of new MS symptoms or the worsening of old ones. Relapses are caused by inflammation in the central nervous system. They can be very mild or severe enough to interfere with your ability to function. One or two relapses are not no one two no two relapses are alike. Goodness, I can't read today. To be a true relapse, all of the following must be true. The relapse must last at least 24 hours. The current relapse must be separated from the previous one by at least 30 days. The flare up must occur in the absence of an infection or other cause. All right. So that is the kind of like the breakdown or definition of what a relapse is and symptoms of a relapse, of an MS relapse. Okay. So the symptoms vary from person to person. Okay. And from one relapse to another. So, for example, a relapse might consist of an episode of optic neuritis, meaning it's caused by inflammation of the optic nerve. Okay. Problems with balance or severe fatigue. And for those of you that know or may not know, I have a coaching program where I help folks with MS increase their energy levels because of the severe fatigue that many of us experience with multiple sclerosis. So, this is a complete side advert here. If you do know anyone with multiple sclerosis that is struggling with their fatigue levels, send them my way and I would love to help them and work through those fatigue issues. Yeah, so definitely let them know about that because that's been something that has been an issue for me. And I have figured out ways to manage it and actually increase my energy levels. And I want to help as many people as possible with increasing their energy levels. So back to this. It says some relapses produce only one symptom due to symptoms at the same time due to inflammation in more than one area. Relapses last from a few days to several weeks or even months. So, like I said, I'm really glad that they provided that hyperlink because some people could be, wondering like, what is a relapse? What does that even look like? Like, what are we talking about? But it just depends on your particular situation with your MS and like I said, the duration and it's between the time frame of it as well. That would determine if it was a true relapse with MS. One thing I did also really appreciate with this information that the MS Society shared here on this actual site was, and I spoke about this in the episode where I talked about Black women being diagnosed with MS, is making a difference through research. So it says Black people are underrepresented in research studies, making it difficult to tell which treatments are best or how to reduce the risk of MS. And that's been one of the things that I feel like more Black people need to be included in these studies because, as we know, no one really thought of MS being a Black disease, right? It was never something that people thought that Black people would even get. And then on top of that, now that we know that this is a thing, now start including us in those actual studies to ensure that, whatever care is needed for us is being offered because we see or what, basically what they are saying that, a lot of the things that they're trying to do in terms of managing MS or even knowing that a Black person may have MS, this would be something that through research would help with determining the diagnosis and two, how to manage someone that's Black with multiple sclerosis. So I really, really appreciate that. They also go through the whole thing about race and MS confronting inequities. Researchers are uncovering gaps in MS research, diagnosis, and treatment. Also, the obstacles to access. Black people with MS are advocating for increased access to healthcare and greater participation in research, like I said before. So it's an amazing section here on the MS Society website. I was really, really excited to find this. And, like I said, I've been a part of, I think, two research studies as it relates to MS. One that I did that I can think of offhand was where they were reaching out to women who were perimenopausal and they wanted to study what that would look like, someone diagnosed with MS along with being perimenopausal, because a lot of the symptoms that perimenopausal women experience can present similar to like what someone with MS would present with. And I, based off what I know with the research that they were looking to do or look at with the study that I was a part of, I think a lot of that was just kind of determining, would perimenopausal, that time in our lives, would that exacerbate symptoms? Would, or would it make things better? Like, who knows? Like, it's just looking at that, and then also looking at how our MS is, is it remaining stable? Like, just trying to figure out what that looks like in the perimenopausal woman that was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So, like I said, I'll share this in the show notes. I thought this was a great section in the MS Society's site. I was really happy to find that. And then another article I found, y'all, which I was like, "Oh, this is actually what spearheaded this whole conversation today." It was called Current Opinion: Racial and Ethnic Health Disparities in Multiple Sclerosis, Considering the Social Determinants of Health. So, this particular article, they discussed the racial and ethnic disparities in MS, and the outcomes and social determinants of health. They're also looking to provide essential considerations needed to bridge the gap in these inequities, including broader representation of racial and ethnic people in clinical trials and research in general, and the inclusion of better measures, living conditions. So what they found in, while during this whole research um, study, what they found was the incidence and prevalence of MS have become more diverse in the USA. There's an increased recognition that racial and ethnic health disparities and inequities exist due to adverse social conditions. Clinical trials have failed to be inclusive and diverse. Training in health disparity is an essential priority of funding sources and designing the clinical trials that consider the barriers these populations face can close like a significant gap. And it's basically just saying what was being shared on the MS Society site as well. So to sum it up, this particular research study, they're saying that the incidence, prevalence, and awareness of MS have seen an incline in diverse racial and ethnic populations. The health disparities exist in MS with Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous populations, appearing to have worse outcomes. The SDOH, which stands for the social determinants of health, play a significant role in causing these health disparities. Accessibility to clinical trials and treatment are barriers these populations face. Strategic, earnest interventions considering SDOH, or like I said, the social determinants of health, are critically needed to develop solutions that collectively improve health and MS care for all. And it's so interesting too, and I'll share this actual abstract of this research article in the show notes as well. I was looking forever trying to find the actual full document, but I'd have to pay into this particular research studies journal. And I was like, listen, this is just for the podcast. So keep it real, y'all. Because then you get all these emails. It's a whole thing. But anyway, as I was saying, I feel like it's hard enough just being a Black person in America, full stop, right? But then you add on things like health issues. And then you realize even in your health journey, there are disparities. And it's overwhelming in so many ways because you feel like, or at least I did. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I felt very alone initially being diagnosed with MS because I have been told for so long that multiple sclerosis was normally something that white people, particularly white women, get, right? And so when you find out that you have something that you typically think that most white people get, you're like, okay, who do I reach out to? And how do I reach out to this person and feel safe reaching out to them, talking to them about my situation, knowing that their situation is possibly different than mine on more ways than one or in more ways than one, right? And so it has been a seriously long journey trying to find and build and create community that is centered around Blackness and centered around the fact that we are trying to heal and thrive with MS all at the same time, right? MS presents differently in everyone. MS is it's one of those diseases that's so bizarre that it's like, okay, you may have vision issues. I may have, like always tell people I have the icy hot arm situation going on where it feels like there's icy hot constantly going through my arm. It gets better. I mean, it's gotten better, I should say, rather, but I still have the sensation. I have major brain fog. Some people have mobility issues. Some people are wheelchair bound. Some people have to use a cane. Some people have really bad balance issues. Some people have hearing issues. Some people have issues with swallowing. Like there's so many things that can be affected because of them being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So, you know, dealing with all those things, like thinking about all that, right? And then on top of that, coming into a situation knowing that, okay, is there a place or are there people like me that are also dealing with this? It's daunting. It is. It's daunting. It's overwhelming. And it just makes you feel as if, all is lost in some ways, right? You're already dealing with the fact that you could potentially be in a situation where, everything that you know about your life has completely been, turned upside down. And then on top of that, you're going to receive, you know, total prejudice and major biases around the fact that you're just a Black person just trying to receive health care. That's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. But what I also found on the MS Society's site, they have a video that I will share with you guys. And it's called Living with MS, and it features some Black people that are actually living with MS. And the video, if you ever get a chance or when you get a chance to actually look at it, I encourage you to take a look at this actual video. I understand that there are other people out here that are also dealing with multiple sclerosis that are Black, and it's not just you know, one-offs here and there, and that there can be support for those of us that are out here that are feeling alone and like there is no one else like us also managing and dealing with multiple sclerosis. So, like I said, happy Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. It has been a great month. I've learned a lot from different people. I have been reaching out to a lot of people on social media just to raise awareness around, my story and, helping people, like I said, as a coach too, manage and navigate their MS symptoms. So it has been just a true blessing all around. So, like I said, for more information, if you want more information about, what MS is like, definitely utilize the links as it relates to the Multiple Sclerosis Society. I will share the link to the video as well as the area on their site where they're talking about multiple sclerosis being more prevalent now in Black communities than it was before, or that we are just now realizing that it has been a part of the Black community and it just wasn't something that was shared or even known in the medical community. So I'll share those two links as well as, like I said, I'll share the abstract of the research study that I mentioned as well. Y'all, we just have to continue to support and love one another through these things and know that we're not alone. A lot of times we may feel like that, but it's the reaching out that's important, making sure that we're reaching out and that we are doing what we can to ensure that we are raising awareness around things like multiple sclerosis and ensuring that the communities that need to be served are being served in a proper manner. All right, y'all. I love you. And like I said, if you want more information about about the coaching program, definitely touch base with me. You can email me at the E to Me podcast at gmail.com, or you can even email me at Alicia R Christian at gmail.com. You can hit me up on pretty much any social that I'm a part of as well. You can easily connect with me. So yeah, definitely touch base with me. And like I always say, y'all, let's just keep on keeping on. And I will see y'all next week. All right.